I'll start with a question this morning of like this, kind of a weird question, but let's just go with it because I like weird questions. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a ghost? You ever thought about this? Like if you were a ghost and you're just like floating around in a room and nobody knew you were there, the kinds of things you would see, the kinds of things you would hear, what people would say about you, all those things, okay? Have you ever wondered that? I don't know if you have, I have. In fact, not only have I wondered what it would be like to be a ghost, I know what it's like to be a ghost because I have been one. Not that I was dead and floating around, nothing like that. Okay, no strange theology today, but this is what happened. I went back to the church that I grew up in after being gone for a long, long time. And it's a very large church, and I had changed over the years. I don't know, I changed since 2019. You saw that on the video up there. That was about 20 pounds ago, everybody, and about 5,000 more gray hairs. Very, very different now. But that's what happened. I went back to my home church, and I had changed. And the people that I knew that were still at that church, they also had changed, but I recognized them. Because I think about them all the time. I visit them in my dreams. When I go back to church in my dreams, I don't know if you do that. When I go to church in my dreams, I always go back to that church. And so I walked into this place that I knew so well. I saw a bunch of people that I grew up with and that I knew so well. And they would walk by and I'd be like, and then they'd keep going. And I'd be like, oh, and then they would keep going. And it was like this feeling of, they don't remember Ben Sanders. Seriously, they don't know me. And it was a strange feeling. Now, if I walked to them, tapping on the shoulder and told them, then they would, oh, yes, I see it now. But it was just a strange feeling to walk in and see people walking by you that you knew, but they didn't recognize you. And so I could walk around that place. I could go in every nook and cranny of that building, and it's a big place. And I have memories all over because I spent the better part of my beginning of my life there. And so I've got memories everywhere. And there's a cliche that says that there is no place like home, and that's true, but that place didn't quite feel like home that day. That nobody knew me. It was early in 2005 when I walked through the doors of a very different church. And I walked in a very different kind of situation. I walked into the doors of that particular church broke, like financially, and broken emotionally, spiritually, physically, walking in a daze. I don't know if you've ever been like that, but I had wandered away from God. I grew up in church, grew up with God, grew up full of the Holy Ghost, but I had wandered away from God, wandered away from the church, and I'd been there for several years. And my life took turns that I never thought it would take. And I knew in that season that I needed to get back to God. I had all kinds of reasons to not go to church. I had all kinds of reasons to not want to be around people that claim they love Jesus. I had all kinds of reasons to not show up that day. But I said, I've got to get back to God. I've got to get back to His people. I've got to get back to the church. And I walked in the back door. Again, it's a church I had not been to before. I walked into that church expecting to be a ghost. But instead, I heard the voice of an old friend calling my name. And it was like a ray of sunshine in the middle of the darkest night. And there's another cliche. Home is where the heart is. I walked in expecting to be a ghost, and within 10 seconds of my feet entering the door, I felt like I was at home. It was there in that church that not only was I greeted by somebody that knew me and somebody that recognized me after all that time. Not only was I sitting there with somebody that I knew, but in kind of an unfamiliar place, but feeling kind of at home. It was there that I experienced the Spirit of God entering me once again, entering my body, transforming my mind all over again. I can take you to the place. Now, it's still a church, but it's a different church now. They sold it and moved to other places and all that, but I could take you, if I could get somebody to open the door up, we could walk in and I could take you up into the balcony because I sat far away from everybody. I didn't want to be around. I was, kind of unsure how close I wanted to be. I just knew I needed to be in the building, so I was far away as I could get from the platform. And I was sitting there watching, and I watched as a young man and a young lady shared their testimony from youth camp. And while they were sharing something that I'd heard probably 100 times before, because every encounter is always the same. We went to youth camp, we experienced God, our life has changed, we're going to live for God. It was amazing. And everybody claps, and that's always cool. We love youth camp. I listened to that because I'd been there too. I'd done the same thing. And I remember the Spirit of God moving inside of, literally, physically. I felt it, my heart turning inside of me like it just flipped over, like you would start a car and you hear the engine trying to turn over. That's what my heart was doing physically inside my chest. And I began to gasp for breath, sitting up there. I'm all by myself. I'm just gasping for breath, trying to breathe. And it was the Spirit of God bringing life back into me again. And so I felt like that I had come home, because all of that's important. It was just like I was somewhere where I was known, somewhere that people would accept me, somewhere that people would love me, but also the Spirit of God entering my life and pouring himself out on me all over again. All of that was absolutely necessary, and all of that is important. So I felt like I'd come home, and I'd make a really long story very, very short. I was helped in that church. I was healed by the people who loved God enough to love me as I was in that church. Was it a perfect church? No, far from it. But to me, it was home. And it's so important for us to get that, because honestly, you can go into any church today and you'll find some kind of worship. Some of them have music, some of them won't. Some will sing old songs, some will sing new songs. Some will have a worship team, some will have lights and laser beams and smoke shows. But you'll hear some kind of worship happening, okay? You'll hear at least one verse of the Bible being read. You might even hear a whole chapter. You might hear a whole book of the Bible being exposited. You got all kinds of styles, but you'll hear the Bible in the church, and you'll hear some kind of spiritual exhortation, some kind of spiritual application, some kind of way to make the word part of your life. And it might be a mega church. It might be a family-sized church. That'll happen anywhere you go, but you won't be loved in every church. I'm sad to say it, but it won't happen. If we're not paying attention, we will end up with a church that sounds like heaven to our ears on Sunday, but it never feels like home to the heart. And I'm here today, a living testimony that we need both of those things. We need a church that is full of the Holy Spirit. We need a church that on Sundays is vibrant and alive and worshipful, and the Spirit moves, and there's miracles and signs and wonders and biblical exhortation and people serve. And all. You need all that, but you also have to have a place where it feels like home. The reason why is because you cannot grow and flourish as a ghost. You can't grow, you can't get any better, you can't mature, you can't be fulfilled, you can't have purpose in your life if you're there but nobody knows. But at home, you get to grow up. At home, you get to have responsibility. At home, people know who you are. At home, when you go on vacation, people miss you. Each of us has to have a home. We have to. It's just part of who we are as human beings, how God made us. John Donne wrote the poem a long time ago in the 1600s. He says that no man is an island. And that's a thoughtful, sobering poem. It's worth reading. It basically sums it up. We're all supposed to be connected. We're all supposed to be with other people. I remember when I was in Lithuania, traveling there, visiting some friends of ours who have planted a church there almost 20 years ago now. I saw a sign that summed up what John Donne said, and no man is an island, and everybody needs a place, and everybody needs a home. This sign was a little bit different, but it was just on the street corner outside of a restaurant. It said this: "He who eats alone chokes alone." That's what it said. It stuck with me. Keep that in mind. Okay? What does that mean? It means the same thing. We need each other. You need to be around people that know you and love you and care for you and will be there if you choke on your food. You need people in your life to surround you and say, you are at home here. And so we have to have a home because we have to be planted to grow. If you're taking notes today, and this is a note-taking church, or you're supposed to be, so get out your phones and start taking notes if you've forgotten today. But here's three things that we have to be in order to have a church that feels like home. You have to have a church where you can be planted to grow. You have to have a place where you can be committed to be fulfilled, and a place where you can be embraced to be healed. You need all of that. I want you to look at your neighbor sitting next to you today and tell them, you need a church home. All right, look at your other neighbors. Try again. Tell them, you need a church home. Okay, look at the person in front of you, and I need to hear. Some of you are just kind of mumbling it, like I don't know if you believe it yet. Tell them, you need a church home. See, there you go. You need a church that feels like home. How do we become a church like that? We'll become a church like that when you get intentional about it. Listen, if you want to be a part of a church that feels like home, and you want to have a church that feels like home, then you have to be intentional about it. So here's 3 things. This is my message today. It's real simple. Normally I don't have 3-point messages. I got a 3-point message for you today. How about that? I should have done 5 because it's the 5-year anniversary, but I'm going to do 3, and then we'll baptize and we'll have fun. That'll be our 5 points for the day, okay? So here you go. 3 points in the message, 2 points out there. Here we go. Number 1, our church must be a place where each person, number 1, becomes known. Becomes known. Number 2, where each person has a place. And number 3, each person is loved. Has to be that. Let's break it down. First of all, everyone that walks through these doors must not be merely welcome, but they must feel welcome. And that's different. Because I can say, welcome, and you won't feel welcome. But I can say, welcome. I can say, it's nice to have you, with the love of God in my heart and a smile on my face, and you'll sense the presence of God. I must feel welcome. They need to feel like they could be known here. They need to know that when I walk through these doors, somebody here gets me. Somebody here I could connect with. I might be able to make a home right here. And how do they know that? How would a person know that this is a place where I could be at home? This is a place where I could connect. This is a place where people could get me, because it's based primarily off of what they see. I'm going to get psychological with you for just a second. It's not quite spiritual, but it's kind of there. How does a person feel more comfortable when they walk into a place that they've never been before? Because they see somebody that looks like them. When a new person walks into a new place, they look immediately, is there anybody else like me in this room? Because if they're not, it's uncomfortable. And if there are, then you feel like, oh, well, I could fit in here. So it's super important that they see somebody that looks like them. Home is full of familiar. So people, they look for gender, age, how people are dressed. That's why I rarely wear a suit, because most people, when they come to church, don't wear suits. Occasionally I do. Show up on Easter, maybe I'll be wearing a suit. It's happened before. I wear different things, okay? So short sleeve, long sleeve, button up, t-shirts. Sometimes I got a little bit of bling on. Sometimes I do not. Sometimes I'm kind of plain. Sometimes a little different. Sometimes I dye my hair. No, I've never dyed my hair. I might do it. I was tempted for the 5-year. Blue and orange on either side. I mean, that would have been something, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would have been something. That would have lived on in infamy on Facebook forever. People, they look for ethnicity. They're looking for people that look like themselves. And, that's great, because in heaven, that we're talking about the church, we're talking about heaven. The church is a picture, a small picture of what heaven's going to be. In heaven, you're going to have male and female. In heaven, you'll have people that live to be every age. In heaven, you'll have every race. In heaven, you'll have every demographic. Everybody's going to be represented there. And so since that's what heaven is, that's what the church ought to be. When people walk through the doors of the church, they should see what heaven looks like. You say, well, what's the Bible verse for that? Well, it happens to be one of our key verses here. It's on the backs of most of our shirts, Revelation 5 and 9. Let's just read it, shall we? And let's just see what heaven looks like. Revelation 5 and 9, this is all the people in heaven, sang a new song, saying, worthy are you to take the scroll. That's Jesus, to open its seals. You were slain. By your blood you ransomed people for God from every tribe, every language, every people, every nation. And you've made them a kingdom. Took people from all kinds of kingdoms. Took people from all kinds of cultures. Took people from all over the world. And you made them a kingdom. Singular. And you made them priests to our God. In other words, we all got the same function. We all have the same level. Everybody's a priest in the kingdom of God. And they shall reign on the earth. And then I looked, and I heard around the throne And the living creatures and the elders and the voice of many angels and the myriads and thousands saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. In other words, all of these nations, all of these different languages, all these different cultures, all the different demographics, all united into one thing, and that is the total focused worship of Jesus Christ. And that's why I say that if you have a city that has an ethnic diversity in the city, it ought to be an ethnic diversity in the church. There's not going to be a white section, a brown section, a black section, a red section, a polka dot section in heaven. It's going to be one kingdom with everybody. And that's how the church ought to look too. Brotherhood, sisterhood, spiritual father and motherhood, loving one another across every line that the world wants to draw, united by the singular focus on the full and total worship of Jesus Christ. That's the work of heaven. So when you see people that look different, people that are different ages, people that come from different walks of life, and they're all together and they're unified in their worship of Jesus Christ, loving one another and loving Him, you know you've walked into a place where heaven is. That's the work of heaven. And so when people come in this place, we will warmly greet them. Not only will we greet them, we will meet them. That's different, by the way. You can greet somebody and not meet them. We'll greet them and we'll meet them. And then we'll work to get to know every person who walks through the door. No guest goes unnoticed. No guest. That's the first thing. And so that's the first part of a church that feels like home, is that everybody sees, everybody senses, everybody feels like somebody could know me here, somebody could get me here, we could be at home here, we have a place here. And the second thing is that we have to become a church where everybody feels like they have a place. See, at home, you got a bed to sleep in. If you go over to somebody's house as a guest, you may not have a bed to sleep in. You could stay there very late, but at some point they say, well, we're going to bed, which is your cue to leave. But at home we say, hey, showers, bath time, bedtime routine, time to go to bed, lights out everybody, shades down, doors closed, lights off, and then everybody goes to their bed and goes to sleep. At home you have a place. You don't get sent out. You've got food to eat. You wake up in the middle of the night and you want some cereal, it's in the pantry. You go, you know what, I want a little ice cream, it's there, right? You have food in there that you can eat. You have a roof over your head when it storms outside. It's wonderful to be at home, isn't it? You also have laundry to do. Dishes to wash, a yard to mow, recycling that has to be taken out to the curb. You get at home. You also get some responsibilities. See, everybody not only has a place to sleep, you got something to do, and that's part. Otherwise, you get spoiled, don't you? See, you just get spoiled. So we don't want a bunch of spoiled people in the church. We want people that are at home in the church, which means they take responsibility for their home. And so this is where we choose to serve. It's where we choose to grow. It's where we learn new skills. It's where we learn to be fulfilled. Because if you don't do that, you just end up spoiled. Spoiled is another name for ruined. We don't want that. We want maturing Christians in our house. We want you to feel like you're at home and that you can grow here. We go, what's the Bible verse for that? I'm glad you asked. There's 3 of them. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 through 14. 2, 3, and 4. There you go. 1, 2, 3. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. Now, some churches, they're moving away from calling people members. Oh, member sounds like you're in a club. No, members is in the Bible. It's part of a body. So we're going to keep using members. We're members of the body, and so it is with Christ. For in one Spirit, we were all baptized into one body. It doesn't matter if you were a Jew, doesn't matter if you were a Greek, doesn't matter if you're a slave, doesn't matter if you're free. All were made to drink of one Spirit. And the body does not consist of one member, but of many. And I've said this before. I know I'm the pastor. I know I get to stand up here and talk more than all of you, but I'm part of the body too. Sometimes people forget that. They forget that the pastor is also, I try not to forget that. I'm also part of the body. I need your friendship. I need your love. I need your encouragement. I need your prayer. I need all of that. I need you to hang out with me. I need all of that because I'm also part of the body. I don't live in an ivory tower. I'm not the head of the church. Jesus is the church. Amen. If I'm anything, I'm more like the big toe. Cause a lot of problems and tell you where to go. That's what I... So the question is, if you are part of the body, if you are in a church and you say, well, you know what, I don't know if it quite feels like home. I say, well, are you doing your part? How do you belong to a body? Well, you belong to a body by doing what the body does and experiencing what the body experiences. There's 3 little words that goes with that: blood, sweat, and tears. Well, last night, you walked in this morning, and everything looks beautiful. Look at all the balloons. Look at all the decor. You see all the treats that are outside, and all. It looks great. Look, all the bounce houses and the baptistry, and the sound is on point, and all. You know why all of that happened? Because there were people that showed up yesterday on their Saturday night when they could have been doing whatever you were doing on Saturday night. They said, we're going to show up and set everything up. And so they got the pleasure then of unloading the baptistry, which there's multiple pieces to it, and it takes a minute to do that, but hauling stuff in and out, moving boxes around that are heavy full of the new T-shirts you're wearing, dropping Cokes everywhere. I won't say who did that, and then cleaning it up again. I mean, it was quite a time last night as we were here doing all that. Well, these who show up to do that kind of thing, they get the pleasure of knowing that they smashed their fingers and sweated a little bit, and they spent part of their precious Saturday night to make anything that happens today that's positive happen. And they're going to rest. They're going to rest today after church knowing they earned it. They're going to rest today knowing they have fulfilled a kingdom purpose, because you're going to leave saying, wow, I was in the presence of heaven today. Wow, people were baptized today. Wow, we had a lot of fun today. Wow, I met some new people today. Wow, that was a great church. You do all that because there were people that put some blood, sweat, and tears into it. And so I say that because if you're not on a team, and we have such great teams here, if you're not on a team, you can only be known so much. If you're not serving, if you're not a part of a smaller group of people that are all geared towards making something happen together, you can only be known so much. If you come in the doors and you worship and then you go home, you will only be known so much. That's just the truth. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm trying to make you feel at home. So if you're not on a team, you get on a team, because brotherhood and sisterhood are found when we work together. And so let's do this real quick. They didn't know I was going to do this, but I'm just going to do it. Okay, so here we go. Hope you're in the room, leaders. But if you lead production, you stand up. Jim, you in the room? Jim is not in the room. He's outside running production outside. Okay. Somebody in production, stand up. There you go. Okay, back there. Look at them. Everybody look. Okay. If you lead worship, stand up. You lead worship, stand up. Yep, okay. There's some worship leaders standing up. No, stay standing. Stay standing. No, production, you don't get to sit. You got to stand up. Everybody stay standing up. Production, worship. All right. If you run hospitality and you're not outside running hospitality, stand up. All right. There you go. Hospitality. Kids, if you run kids, stand up. There we go. Over there. Okay. Creative arts, that's all the videos and the pictures that go on social media and photography and all that. That's also, Eric, raise your hand so everybody sees. Keep your hand up so everybody knows. Okay. He does a couple of things. First responders, you talk to me. Okay, I'm already standing. So if you want to be on a team, you say, you know what, today I need to serve somewhere. I want you to look around, you see these people, that's who you talk to. Okay? Talk to me, talk to any of them. Okay, everybody got it? All right, sit down. Perfect, see? Yeah. Why? Because you're going to get to know people, and you're going to become brothers and sisters with people when you serve and work and sweat next to people for the same cause and the same purpose. That's what's going to happen. So we want to do that. All right, so the second, that was the second thing. The third thing, the last thing, you told you 3 points. Hey, Ben, it's what happening today. It's a 5-year anniversary. I'm excited to get to the cake. That's what it is. Finally, thirdly, we must be a church that openly, brazenly overtly goes beyond friendliness into loving kindness. Not just being welcoming, not just being a greeter, not just being a meter, but not just being friendly. Oh, that's great. But go into loving kindness. That's why Jesus said in John chapter 13, verse 35, he said this, "By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, because on Sundays you run and hoop and holler for Jesus." That's not what he said. Is that fun to do? Yeah. Is that in the Bible? Yeah. We're going to do that? Yeah. You're going to know my disciples because you give your tithe and your offerings every week. I mean, that's great to do. Thank you for doing that. But that's not how he said you were going to know. He said you could put anything in there, but it has to be this. He only said one thing. This is how people are going to know that you're my disciples. If you have love for one another. That means that we greet people. That means that we serve people. That means that we get to know people. That means that we get to bear people. You know what that means? You know what bearing means? I mean, grin and bear it. That's not what it means. There are some people where you feel like I just have to grin and bear it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting to know them, getting to know their challenges, getting to know their burdens, and then you help them bear those burdens. You walk beside them. You pray with them. You call them. You encourage them. If they need something, you step in and help meet the need. That's what it means. And then you enjoy each other. You spend time doing things that are fun together. I know fun is kind of one of those words that you don't put in church normally. But fun is a great word for church. Really, fun is the beginning of another three-letter word that is Bible, J-O-Y, joy. When you can have fun, you'll find yourself having joy. So we have to be a church that not just greets people and serves people, gets to know people, but also people that bear one another's burdens and goes out of their way to show that we love one another. Here's the reality. If you don't serve, if you don't participate, if you don't hang out outside of Sunday, if you choose to isolate, you will never feel at home.
That's true.
Never. Even if the church is wonderful. You can have incredible church services, but if you don't connect outside of church, if you choose to just stay away from everything outside of Sundays, you will never, ever, ever feel at home. And so you'll hear people say, "Oh, I just never connected there." Or they'll say, "Well, I was plugged in, but now I feel disconnected." And then I just think, well, are you faithful to a team?
Come on.
Who's the last person from the church family that you had coffee or lunch with? When was the last time you invited somebody over to your house? Or just to hang out? Couples to couples, guys to guys, ladies to ladies. When's the last time you did that? Because that's important. If you don't do those things, you will have a hard time feeling like you're at home. It's true. Oh, everybody's nodding going, "Yeah, that's true." Because it is. It's true. Well, I have good news for you. You're about to get the opportunity outside. So, cash me outside. How about that? You know what I'm saying? That was terrible. That was terrible. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry. Outside, we're about to celebrate baptisms. Outside, we're about to have some games. Outside, we're going to have some cake. It's just going to be fun, okay? And so while you're out there having fun, I want you to go ahead and invite somebody out to lunch with you, invite them to coffee with you, invite them over to your house. And this is your opportunity to get intentional about making connections. This is not a better day to make a connection today, to get to know somebody's name or to take somebody that you haven't hung out with, but you thought, "Man, they seem like we could hang out together." Then do that. Do that today. Okay, let's choose today to get intentional about connection. What we're trying to do is this. Ephesians 2, chapter 19. You do all those things. And this is my closing. Ephesians 2:19. This is our goal. This is what we're trying to do. It says, if you do all these things, you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints, members of the household of God, the home where God lives. It's built on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, Christ Jesus himself being the cornerstone. in whom the whole structure, what we're building, not a physical building, but a group of people, this whole structure being joined together grows into a holy temple in the Lord. In him you also are being built together into a dwelling place for God by the Spirit. We want to be a place where the Spirit of God is at work in people's life. It's going to take all the things that I told you. It's going to take not just a great time in the Spirit on Sundays, but building people together, putting people together, a dwelling place for God. Not just a rented space for God on Sunday, but a dwelling place for God all throughout the week. A people that know each other, love each other, are there for each other, who worship together from all walks of life. It's an incredible thing, and it's the work of heaven. Let's stand in the room today.